For 29-year-old Daniel, the draw of the night shift at a small rural motel is the total silence. It's a predictable, solitary environment where he can work for hours without seeing a single soul. The layout is simple. There is a main reception desk right by the front glass doors and a hallway behind it that leads to a hidden back-office lounge. Working here long enough, you learn the building's baseline sounds. The heaters click, the wood frame settles, and the walls creak. In a dead quiet building, these noises become a comforting rhythm. The only intended interruption is the service bell. There's a speaker in the back lounge that dings whenever someone at the front desk presses it, signaling that a guest has arrived. Because the environment is so rigid and the routine so consistent, you stop looking for surprises. You begin to trust that if the building is quiet, you are completely alone. At 2 a.m. on a freezing Tuesday, that trust is broken. Daniel is sitting in the back when the speaker suddenly chimes, cutting through the silence of the empty motel. He walks to the front desk, expecting to see a traveler looking for a room. Instead, he finds the lobby exactly as he left it, completely empty. He looks through the glass doors at the parking lot. The few guest cars are dark and still, and the road stretching past the motel is a black void. There isn't a single sign of movement outside. The bell had been pressed, but there was no one there to press it. Logically, it's a contradiction. The environment is too open for someone to have entered, rung the bell, and vanished into the night in the time it took Daniel to walk down the hall. Daniel heads back to the lounge, but his focus is gone. 10 minutes later, the bell rings again. He rushes back to the desk, but the lobby is still vacant. The silence feels heavier this time. He starts a physical search, checking the lobby bathrooms before stepping outside into the cold. He sweeps the lot with his flashlight, illuminating the empty spaces between the cars, but there is no one there. He tells himself it must be a prank, a local kid playing ding-dong ditch. It's the only explanation that allows him to feel like he's still in control of the situation. Believing in a prankster is a way to stay calm. It's much easier to imagine a kid running into the woods than it is to admit that the source of the noise might be much closer than the parking lot. Daniel decides to end the game. Instead of going back to the lounge, he sits in the chair directly behind the front desk, hiding in the shadows to catch the person when they return. He dims the lobby lights and sits in total silence. He can hear the clock on the wall ticking and the faint hum of the fridge in the back office. Every creak of the floorboards makes him twitch. He waits for 20 minutes, his eyes glued to the front doors. Eventually, his heart rate slows down. He starts to think he was just being paranoid and that the prankster has moved on. Just as he begins to relax, the silence is shattered. The bell rings a third time. Only this time, Daniel is looking right at it. A pale hand rises from the dark space beneath the counter, reaches over the edge, and presses the bell right in front of his face. The intruder hadn't been outside. He was curled into the small gap beneath the desk, crouched between Daniel's legs for 20 minutes, waiting for the exact moment Daniel let his guard down. Daniel panics, bolting from the chair and sprinting down the hallway. He slams the back office door and locks it, his heart hammering. He turns to the security monitors. From this distance, he can finally see the lobby through a safe, detached perspective. A head pokes out from behind the desk. Daniel watches as a tall man in a hoodie crawls out on his hands and knees, then slowly stands up in the middle of the empty room. The man's behavior is chilling. He doesn't run for the exit. He walks to Daniel's door and slowly rattles the handle. When it doesn't open, he turns back to the lobby, calmly flipping through brochures as he waits for the police to arrive. There is no urgency in his movements. Most intruders flee when they are spotted, but this man remains in the lobby, unbothered, as if he had always planned to stay as long as possible. Finally, the parking lot monitors are flooded with the red and blue flicker of police lights. The man sees the lights and immediately bolts out of the frame. By the time the officers clear the building, he has vanished back into the woods. The only evidence of how he got in is a large rock propping the front door open, just enough to bypass the automatic locks without triggering the buzzer. Daniel still works, but the isolation of the night shift is ruined. Every time the service bell rings, he is forced back into the memory of that night. The memory that lingers is the realization that the safety of the desk was an illusion. Daniel had spent his entire shift in that room, never knowing that for most of it, a stranger was curled into the small space directly beneath his feet.